Hello, and welcome to the Rewrite Your History 2.0 Summit. I'm your host, Susan Yaki, and today I have a special guest who has helped hundreds of people over the years to start and build their own personal businesses and brands. He is the author of the personal growth book and workbook titled Designing Your Own Destiny, Embracing Change Through Leadership and Love. He has also created his own podcast where he interviews entrepreneurs and other interesting people called Life's Little Lessons Show, which can be found on iTunes. He is a business and life coach and an entrepreneur strategist. His name is Kevin Dunlap, and welcome, Kevin, to the summit.
It's a pleasure to be here, and it's also a pleasure to finally meet you, Susan. So this
You
is
too.
thank
Yeah, last time it was over the phone.
you. Yes,
I love technology. It really gets, we get to connect with anyone from around the world, and as long as they have the same technology, right?
well, I mean, we're kind of connecting through Zoom, so that is a technology is free to anyone that wants to use it. So
Yeah, isn't that great?
yes,
Yep, you don't need no special features, throw up some pretty picture in the back and bam, there you go.
absolutely.
That's right. So let's talk a little bit about you're a life coach, and the purpose of this summit is for people to have the courage to move beyond their past, that they are empowered and inspired to take action in their life. In a lot of summits, you hear a lot of success stories and such. I like to hear a little bit about, like, where did you start when you decided enough's enough for me, and you want to make a difference in the world? What was that shift for you?
Um, I mean, there were different times and different moments that made me do that. But if I go back and look at probably the first one, it was most likely in July 1999.
Okay.
And that's when I actually got downsized from a company, and I was downsized in, I would say, in a not so pleasant way, and it made me swear at that point in time that I would never work for corporate America again.
Ooh.
And I could go into the story of that story, or I could just go continue what I learned from that. um, as soon as after I did that, the next job that I did was actually working with a multi-level marketing company that is no longer in business now, but at that time was called Equinox International.
Mm.
And and they sold supplements. They sold what do you call it? Not naturopathic, homeopathic
Oh,
medicine,
yeah.
as well as air filtration, water filtration, things along those lines.
Okay.
And that's where I started wanting to make a difference, because I was improving my life. I was becoming more
Hmm.
aware. The founder of the company, and he was also the lead trainer. His name is Bill Gould, and he did all kinds of trainings and stuff. And that's what enlightened me into the whole concept of personal development and personal growth, and
Nice.
and everything else
Was
just
the,
comes from there.
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
And I'm just saying, and everything else just led from there.
Yeah. I love the MLM industry. It's a rising industry, and you do learn a lot in the process, especially if you're someone who has already got like a business mindset. But you definitely develop your own mindset through that process because, yeah, you might be selling products or services through that company, but it really takes something. It takes something to do that. So that's how you kind of really discovered that you wanted to be a life coach, or did that
I
come later?
That came many years later. I started doing all kinds of studies after I left, after Equinox was shut down by the FTC. That's when I actually started listening to things like Tony Robbins and things along
Mm.
those lines. Because I started listening to Tony Robbins on January 1st, 2002. So
Oh, how's come you can remember the date?
it was January 1st, is New Year's resolution. So
Oh, yeah.
that,
Okay.
that's how I remember that date. in February 2010 was the very first time I took a live personal development class. And
Mm,
that's really what started the whole thing. Since then, I've gone through multiple different companies, taken multitude of different classes.
yeah,
I've gone back and volunteer staffed. I've even went back and led some of the staff in one particular class, and just doing all of that has been life changing for me. So
nice.
then, of course, I wrote a book in 2015. I started in 2015. It was launched in 2016. The book that you mentioned
Uh-huh.
earlier, the Designing Your Own Destiny. And I even made a comment in that book that before 2010, I probably even definitely before 2002, back when we still had bookstores, they were quite more frequent than they are now.
Sure.
And I wouldn't often see people in the self-help section, and
Mhm.
secretly I would kind of snickers, "Listen, what's wrong with this person that you have to go to this whole section of self-help?" And now my book, Designing Your Own Destiny, would be in the self-help section of a it's just funny how the world just comes around.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So, so you share in what I love. Let me back up here. When you're talking about the mindset, and you work a lot with businesses, do you
Mhm.
work one-on-one with clients as well?
And right now I mainly work with one-on-one with clients. I mean, I do trainings, programs. I do have things for sale that I online videos and stuff like that. So I do, like I say, I do give talks at different company
Okay.
events, but for the most part, it is one-on-one right now.
Yeah. And what do you find as being like one of the maybe one or two of the things that people seem to deal with as far as like limiting beliefs and those old programmed patterns?
Mostly I see is their own self-value. They don't feel that they deserve it. They don't feel they're worth it, and thereby they do not take action.
Yeah.
That is the main thing that I see.
And how do you work with them to work through that process?
Well, it's through a series of steps. I mean, it's finding out, the one way to help them improve their own self-value is to look at their accomplishments. What have they accomplished?
Mm,
And if you're focusing on your current challenges, or you're focusing on your failures, then yes, you're not going to be you're not going to succeed. But if you look at that, all the great things that has happened to get you to where you are now, and
mhm,
if you look back and says, well, 2 years ago this is where I was, and this is where I am now, like, wow, I have come a long way. Or when they explain themselves to somebody else that's, let's say, that's not quite at their level,
mhm.
then that person will look at that person that I'm coaching, and saying they would be looking up to this and, hey, can I get your autograph, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
it's to actually look at your own accomplishments and to
Yeah.
acknowledge those.
Okay. So I know there's a lot of people that have these self-doubts, the patterns, the fears. Um, do you ever get to like some of the root cause of those issues that maybe what is blocking them?
Yes, because I'm also NLP certified, so that is one
Oh,
of the things
awesome.
that is one of the things that I look at as well. Is like, okay, if you're having this issue here, does it stem from something else? Does it stem
Yeah.
from, I mean, it could be life, it could be business, it could be personal, it could be your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, girlfriend, mom, dad. I mean, there's all your childhood even. So you go back to, where did that first instance actually occur? Like,
Yeah.
let's say if you're afraid to stand up and speak in front of a room of, let's say, even 5 people, well, where does that come from? Because that fear will have a root from somewhere else, and it could have been
Right.
that when the teacher called you on the board in fifth grade to do a math problem, you did it wrong and people laughed at you. I mean, you never know, it stems from somewhere.
Right.
So, and there are techniques in NLP to actually look at at that actual event, and to actually, it's called reframing, where you just put a different frame around that instance, and now you can look at it from a different a different perspective.
Oh, nice. So you want to use it on me right now?
I could. I mean, what is a challenge that you currently have?
um, let's see. Well, what keeps showing up is like I'm working on like 3 projects,
Okay.
and there's this a large amount of stress that just comes about, and I know that people have stress all the time, and there is a certain amount of healthy stress, but I seem to like have this high resilience, and I'll get to a certain point where it starts causing discomfort in my body. and then I become overwhelmed, and and as I especially get closer to a deadline of something.
Okay. So, I mean, is now, is there one particular incident? I mean, because you talk about three different projects. So I'm like, and I know you have a summit.
Well, yeah, right now I'm working on the summit, and I
Mhm.
didn't mean to put you on the spot. I apologize. But I think it's kind of it allows the audience to actually maybe get to experience some of this own stuff in their own life, or relate to the story, I should say, and maybe see how they could actually navigate through that process when they're dealing with stress or anxiety. And
Well,
so
okay.
with the summit, as I get closer to the end, and I have a structure and such. However, that's when it seems like everything starts to come up, like people canceling, or I need to reschedule. I mean, just all kinds of stuff shows up.
Okay.
And
Which that basic life happens, so things like that happen, and I'm sure
yeah,
you've had to cancel or change things on other people's calendars because
yeah.
of, you know.
But for me, what happens is I start like stressing out about it a lot, about like, oh my gosh, am I going to get this done on time? Like I start going into those thinkings, and I've been just observing it, and I know that all I need to do is just sit down and just look at what's working, what's not working,
Mhm.
and and just redo it. I feel like I might have like some underlining fear, and about probably like what people are going to think, and is it all going to work out? So like uncertainty. Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, I put on live events myself, and usually not with other speakers so much. Well, if I did with me and one other speaker, so it wasn't like I was putting together a summit. I was just putting together a talk. And yes, I mean, as time as it's coming up, he's like, I mean, I know I've gone through this. You're going through this now.
Mhm.
It's like you want it to be perfect, and nothing is ever going to be perfect, especially not on your first, second, third, fourth, fifth, or even 10th go around. But as you're doing it, you'll get more and more knowledgeable as to how things flow.
Okay.
um, One of the things I would suggest is to have out a calendar if you haven't already done this, of that day, of that event, of what's going on during those time frames. And let's say, for an example, let's say I was your 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock speaker, and all of a sudden I had to cancel at the last minute. Well, what is your backup strategy? Could the 10 to 11 o'clock speaker
Oh.
be 10 to 11:30, and your 12 o'clock speaker be 11:30 to 1? No, hey, you got
Hmm.
an extra 30 minutes. Would you like an extra 30 minutes on stage?
Yeah.
I mean, there are
Okay.
always solutions to all the problems. But if you got it all framed out, and if something happens, then just say you have it all framed out with sticky notes, and something happens, you just move things around. It's like, okay, how can I adjust for that?
I love that. Okay.
So
That's
that
what's
way,
missing.
that way you're not putting yourself so much stress on that.
Yeah. Is it
And
possible for people to be addicted to stress, maybe?
oh, absolutely, because
What do you think that would be about?
it could be. I mean, you could be addicted to anything. Because what
Right.
what people are typically are, they're either moving away from a pain or toward a pleasure. That's what everything boils down to. Somebody
Hmm.
that's addicted to stress is now maybe because and people. Okay, I'm going to go with this with an example. So then I will try to dive
Okay.
back around. What I mean is that people are always are looking to move away from a pain or toward a pleasure. It could be, let's say, a kid's going to go to college. You
Hmm.
know, 18, 19-year-old kid is on his way to go to college out of state. That could be a pain or a pleasure,
Yeah.
depending how you look at it. That
Hmm.
kid going to college could be a pain, is because he's going there, basically, to say, against his will. One for pleasure, or even getting away from a pain, is he doesn't have a happy life with his parents, so he's going to college so he can get away and be free.
Oh, yeah.
uh, so I mean, it's always there's always something that's comes around, what's going on with that.
Mhm.
Somebody addicted to stress, because that could be how their adrenaline flows. They're addicted to that adrenaline that's going through their
Mm.
bodies. They're addicted.
Okay.
So it could be, I mean, it could be anything. So
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, just in what you were speaking, I right away when you said plan A, plan B, and that's exactly what's missing
mhm.
in my scenario is not having a plan A, plan B. Because I do, like you said, scheduling things out, stuff like that. I like your sticky note idea too. Um, what if so when you're working with your clients, do you have any what is like maybe one of the main fears that they're dealing with?
Fear of failure, fear of not being good enough are some of the biggest ones. And 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 one of the presuppositions, there's 14 presuppositions in NLP, and I think it's like number 5 or number 7 is how we define the word failure. And according to NLP, there is no such thing as failure.
Mm.
There, as they call it, it's always feedback. The
Oh,
feedback may not be what you wanted, but it was still
yeah,
just feedback. Failure, to me only occurs when you give up.
yeah,
Let's say you put together this. I don't know about you, but let's say this is your first summit and it didn't go the way you planned. Okay,
yeah.
so now you're going to put together then the second summit or your next summit. What can you do differently?
Okay.
Yeah, because as long as you're open to learning from the situation, there is no such thing as failure, in my opinion, unless you quit.
Oh, yeah. Or you push through the pain of it and and then you just keep re-experiencing it
No, I
until
mean,
you
because
figure it out.
the thing is, you always got to look at what worked and what didn't work.
Yeah.
And what worked, how can I improve it to make it work better? And what didn't work, okay, how do I tweak it to make it to actually go better the way that I would like it for it to go?
Yeah. And
So
when you look at businesses, especially around that performance, um, when you're looking at the performance of, say, a team,
okay.
and you're like the influencer, the leader, and you're doing everything you think that's right, and the team's just not in alignment, and they're all off doing different things. How would you bring them together and synchronize the mission of the company?
Well, one of the things that comes to mind and I don't know if it's okay to curse on it, but I'm going to go and curse anyway, is to have what has been previously known as a bitch session. You come in
Yeah.
and have the people say, okay, what's working for you, Bob? What's not working for you? How can we could do better? Can we take some stuff off of your plate and put it on Cindy's plate, and take stuff off Cindy's plate and put it on Joseph's plate, and put Joseph's back on Bob's plate? I mean,
Yeah.
is to find out why is it not working, how can we improve, get the ideas from the people that are in the field that are actually doing it. And then, because you want to build synergy, you want to make sure that
Mm.
everybody can work together. And
Right,
that's
right.
why sometimes I have these corporate retreats that people go and do these teamwork building things, which I highly do recommend.
Yeah.
I know I've done something like that or similar to that, and it really does bring people together. um,
Nice.
but in the corporate environment, in the corporate scene, is because I have a friend of mine. She's one of my clients. She's up in Canada, and she's talking about a coworker of hers that's just not pulling her weight.
Mm.
And my client, she's getting very frustrated because she's actually in charge of the person that's not pulling their weight. And
Yeah.
my client is always in the habit of doing it for her. Yeah,
Yeah.
it has to get done. It's like, no, I said, you don't do it for her. If she falls flat on her face, your boss is going to see that, and then they'll
Hmm.
make a shift, or they will let her go and find someone that's more capable.
Yeah.
So
So would she be, I mean, if it's bothering her or if there's an impact, what is there a way that she could actually like talk to that person, or you're just,
you can, I mean, I would say definitely address it. and you don't have to address it as an attack. You can address it as, okay,
Hmm.
this is what is going on in the company right now. I'm I'm doing these extra duties that are supposed to be on your plate. How can we
Hmm.
get you to um, step up and work harder?
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I would have to see the people and meet their and see what their personality styles are. And I mean, because I'm just
Yeah.
giving a very generic answer.
Yeah.
However, because there's so many different, depending on the books that you read or the courses you take, there's so many different personality types.
Yeah.
And I know with my initial training, we learned the main four, but if you look at Myers-Briggs, there's 16 personality types. So
Yeah.
it, so you need, because if I know you are very aggressive, strong, dominant personality type, I wouldn't come up to you being, oh, let's hug, let's go. You're not
Right.
going to be, you're not going to be, you wouldn't respect me coming in that way. So I
Yeah.
want that just so I can have a better idea of how to make it work better for everybody.
So let's just, I'm not picking on your client, but she's a good one. Because a lot of employees actually, I mean, just in the past where I used to work, um, employees would express, or, they just come and start telling you everything because you're not a boss or in a leadership role. So people just feel more comfortable complaining, I think. And one of the complaints would be so and so is not working, and I've heard bosses tell them, why not, what could you do that would have you work together, and you know what I mean.
Yes.
But what if that person really has a fear about addressing stuff like that?
Well, I mean, that's when you start becoming more of a leadership role, like in my friend's case or client's case. She's more of a manager. She's not like
Mm.
the big wig. She's
Yeah.
just a couple of steps up. But if you're going to be in any kind of leadership position, you have to sometimes be the bad guy.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, I remember going, this is dating myself way back in, I was going out with this one woman. She was like 20 years old, and she was the manager of a clothing store back in North Carolina. She was the one that hired and fired people. And
Yeah,
I mean,
that would suck.
that would, but however, if you're going to be stepping up into higher levels of leadership,
True.
as far as position is concerned,
Yeah.
in a company, you have to take a stand here and there. Otherwise, people won't respect you.
Right.
I
Okay.
mean, let's
That
look at
makes
it
sense.
to my client's case. I don't know how her coworkers are seeing this situation, but it's like, if they are seeing what's going on there, are they going to say, well, my client is a wuss,
Uh-huh.
and she's not going to get those promotions. She's not going to get those. She's not going to get
Yeah.
the proper respect.
Right. So kind of like a child, you just gotta let a lot of things that they just gotta learn through their own consequences. You know, pointing out that they have a choice type of thing.
Well,
Uh, kind of like that with adults.
one of the things, because I used to also work in the film and theater,
Uh-huh.
and also I do give talks at a local Toastmasters thing.
Nice.
Now, how Toastmasters works is the same thing that I think will help in this situation. Is because whenever you give a talk, there's one person that's going to be your evaluator.
Mm.
And then after your talk is over, after all the talks are over, then the evaluations begin. And the
Okay.
evaluations are to make you a better speaker. So they're not going to always be nice little comments.
Yeah.
However, how they normally start off by is that, and this could work in corporate cases, is that, okay, this is what's going right. This is what you did well. Okay, you came out on stage, you made eye contact with, whatever it was, and
Uh-huh.
then these are the areas that need to be worked on, and then you finish it off by
Oh.
saying something again, something that was complimentary. So he's not
Okay.
sitting and complaining. He's like, okay,
Hmm.
hey, let's call this other person, not my client, but the other person. Let's call her name Judy. I don't remember what her real name is, but let's just call her Judy. Say, hey, Judy, yes, you're doing a great job. You're doing this. However, I'm noticing that you're not getting this thing done on time.
Yeah.
We need to get this, because this let's say this is at a magazine. We've got a hard date when we have to launch the magazine. And however, to start doing that, but then you finish it off by saying again something, maybe even reiterating the initial compliment.
Mm. Yeah.
So that way you're not always just Debbie Downer, complaining all the time.
Right.
And I think even the
Yeah.
same way with a management, or not management, people talking about the management. They're always coming and saying, "Oh, I want to complain, complain, complain." Well, why don't you say something nice, so it's not like you're attacking them? Then address the issue with not again, not as an attack, and then again saying something nice. And I mean, that what, in my opinion, makes everything end a lot easier, and I think things will get done a lot better because
Yeah.
now you're building the synergy and you're building the people liking each other.
Yeah. Well, I think it really just boils down to the mind. It's what's your mind, your thinking around having that kind of a conversation with somebody, and who you're being when you look at the ontological way. Um, because if you're, I mean, I've been there, and I every once in a while catch myself still doing it, but there's all that thought that you put into it before you have a conversation, and before you know it, you're just not having the conversation, and then you're running around complaining all the time or gossiping to your friends. And one thing is, give up that meaning that you're making everything mean, and create the way that you're being in a way that leaves you with being more powerful and fully self-expressed.
Hmm.
And I mean, that's just some of the technique that I use, but I think that's what, yeah, I think a lot of people would want to find some tools so that they can actually have conversations. I mean, it's not even easy in a marriage sometimes to have conversations about what you're really feeling or thinking in your marriage or with your children. And so,
Well, because we are all emotional beings, and we act very much on the emotional side.
yeah.
When oftentimes, if we step back for a moment and say, 'cause one of the things that I learned, and this I learned from Tony Robbins back in 2002, was what is the purpose of any communication or any action that you're taking? What is the, before you go in there and do it, what is the actual purpose of it? Because if you
Oh, yeah.
go in there and just let off steam, okay, what's the purpose?
Right.
I mean, okay,
Yeah.
I get it. You're relieving stress on yourself, but if you're letting off that on somebody else, what is your purpose?
Yeah.
What is
Yeah.
that purpose? Because, like you say, with a child, it could be like, they may need. Let's say they're really acting out. Well, maybe it's time to pull them aside and talk to them, or punish them, or whatever it is that you feel is
Hmm.
necessary for you as a parent. But
Yeah.
what is that purpose? And
Right.
and then if it's, and then I see this often in email, and I've had this conversation numerous times, is when an email conversation or texting conversation is getting heated, is to actually
Hmm.
step away and say, okay, I will write up this email, I'll put it in my drafts, and tomorrow morning, if I still feel the same way, then I'll send it.
Yeah.
Most people
Yeah.
won't send that same email
Hmm.
1 hour later.
Yeah.
So
That's actually a really good one, a good thing that you bring up, because with the texting, everything's texting and emailing, and you are putting an energy inside of the email that is taken a certain way, I'm sure, by the opposite person. But I like that. Just take a night off and before you send it. I like that.
well, because there was one time when somebody was wanted to sue me. This was on a real estate transaction I did a few years ago, and I even sent him an email after he responded, something like, and he ended up getting thrown out of court because he was suing the wrong person. But when he was sending, when he was when we were in the email conversation going back and forth, I wrote a response. I did take my advice. I waited till the next morning. The next morning, I said, you know what, I don't feel that way anymore. I don't have as much energy on this.
Mm,
Let me rewrite this. And then I even said in the PS section, please, after you read this, don't respond for 24 hours.
nice.
I mean, asked him to do it, and he did. He did wait
Yeah.
the 24 hours, and his email back to me, was still out of anger, some anger, but it wasn't as much as I thought it would have been if he would have responded immediately.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same thing with the text message. Because whenever you're doing emails and texting or anything, even the telephone is a little bit better. Is that only 7% of our communication is through the words that we say.
Yeah.
I think it's like 60% is in our body language, and then the rest is going to be our tonality
Yeah.
and how we sound. So so having conversations on email and text are the worst forms of communication.
It
Uh,
is.
a potential romantic relationship ended because of a texting conversation.
Oh, wow.
So I'm very, very aware of this now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
And
we
then
add a lot of meaning to everything, including texts.
well, and we do because it's all about our perspective on something. The name
Yeah.
of my company is called Plentiful Perspectives. That's my parent name of my
Plenty,
company. Plentiful,
plentiful perspective.
correct.
Oh, I like that.
And what that is that there's always different ways of looking at the same situation.
Okay.
And going back to the um, texting or email conversation, phone's better because now you got a little bit more going on. In
Right.
person communication or even something like this, it's going to be better. But in person is always the best.
Yeah.
An example of that, I have it in my book, and I did not create this. Actually, I was told this by somebody else. And it's like if you get 9 words and you write it down on a sheet of paper, and I'll go and give you the 9 words. I think it's 9 words. And I was going to say this without any tone whatsoever, or just one. I'm going to say it monotone,
Mhm.
and it would say, "I did not kiss your wife last night." Okay, so
I
just
did.
reading it like that,
Yeah.
it just says, okay, that's something that's very innocent. But if you start putting tonalities on different words, it completely changes the sentence. Let's say if I'm going to put the tone on the word
Yeah.
I did not kiss your wife last night. It's about the same.
Yeah.
Now let me change this. Let me put it on the word kiss. I did not kiss your wife last night. No,
Wow. I
I
can, yeah.
I did not kiss your wife last night. And,
Oh, well, who did you kiss?
who did you kiss? So same sentence, but by changing
Yeah.
the tone on
The
one
I
word.
had a lot of power behind it, like,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're almost like you're blaming, and then the kiss.
I mean, like
Yeah,
you did
that
something
was
else.
interesting.
Or I did not kiss your wife last night. Okay, when did
That's really good. I love that.
you?
Wow. Oh,
and,
wow.
and you could do it in all 9 words, and it gives a completely different connotation just by the tone.
That's
So
amazing.
you see
No
how a
kidding.
text message or an email message saying that one sentence, me as the reader, so I could as the reader, I mean, me as the writer, it could mean I'm being innocent. Me as the reader could say, well, I'm reading it differently than how you're
Yeah.
stating it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Be responsible for, yeah,
well,
how you're
that goes
perceiving
back to the whole plentiful perspectives is okay, because I try to, as a habit of mine, you know, when something serious is going on, I try to look at it from multiple angles. Okay, how can I
it.
see it from
Oh,
how can I see it from that angle? Going back to your seminar that you have coming up. Okay, how can I look at it from a client's perspective? How can I look at it from the planner's perspective? Let me the
yeah.
musician's perspective, the one of the guest speakers' perspective. You know, trying to look at these things from all these different angles could
Oh,
possibly help you come up with different solutions to your situation or problem, or at least try
okay.
to understand.
That's beautiful. I like that. Wow.
Yes.
Well, Kevin, I absolutely am just enjoying this conversation, and we could do it all day long. Um, is there anything that you want to share with, or maybe a tool or a trick or something? Well, I shouldn't say trick. Sounds like I'm talking to dogs or something, but something that could leave our audience with taking action right now that would have them be empowered and inspired in something that's an area that's of importance to them.
Well, I mean, number one is finding out what your passion is. I mean, that's the key thing. I'm going to give you an exercise for your listeners to do, and there's also a quote that Zig Ziglar said that I really really love, and that quote is, "If you can dream it, you can achieve it." So
Mm,
whatever you dream, you can find a solution to actually get at it.
yeah.
One of the things I often do with my initial clients, one of our first homework assignments, and it's very, very, very powerful. I know when I was introduced to it, that's what actually got me started with the coaching business. This is how this was with in 2014. Is when decided to get into the coaching. I've changed what I did, how I coached, and what I coached, but that's how when I got started.
Hmm.
And it's an exercise that is known as free writing. Have you ever heard of this exercise? So
Yeah, journaling.
kind of journaling. Now, it
Okay.
doesn't matter if you're religious, not religious, believe in God, believe in Buddha, if you're Hindi, it doesn't matter,
Okay.
uh, because what I look at as God is also the universe, is also the
Hmm.
source.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. So therefore, what name you give it is up to you.
Yeah.
Is to actually, you have to turn off your cell phone. You have to get into a quiet room where nobody can disturb you, and there's no other outside noises. And what you do is you go out and you get a notebook, and essentially what I do is I put down G equals God, K equals Kevin. And what I do is I will start asking myself questions.
Okay.
So like say, are you there? I would say, K, are you there? G, yes. And then I start asking, like, what
Oh,
is my
wow.
purpose? What is it that I'm destined to do? What is my true love? And the first time I did it, it took me about 30 minutes, and I wrote 9 pages of material. So
Wow.
that's how I started doing the whole coaching business, was because just doing that one exercise.
You're
So
kidding.
you'll be
Wow.
surprised what answers that you will get.
Yeah.
And I've actually, I mean, it literally, I mean, it's not like it's going to foretell the future. It's like I say, what are tomorrow's lottery numbers?
Right.
I'm not going to get that. It's basically, in my opinion, is your subconscious self talking through your
Hmm.
hand. And that's the
Yeah.
reason you don't want to have any disturbances, is you just want to keep going and going and going
Wow.
until
I love that.
like one of the last questions I would often ask is that it is that it? And G would say, for now. Now, just using G for now,
Nice.
because I'm
Yeah,
giving
I love that.
it my letter and my name, but use whatever you want. And I
Yeah.
would say definitely put the different names on each one, even if you're just using a letter. That way, when you go back and reread it, a week from now or something like that, you know which side is talking.
Wow. Oh, I'm going to do that tonight. I'm excited. Wow.
Yeah.
And did you have a free gift that you were offering the listeners today?
Yes, I'm giving away a 90-minute talk that I normally give. I have a workbook that goes with it. And it's, if you go to my website, which is www.kevin, Kevin, Dunlap, Dunlap.com/free gift. It's
Okay.
FREEGIFT, no space, no underscore, no hyphen. So just go to kevinadunlap.com/free gift. You just have to do is put in your name and email, hit the send button, and then you'll automatically get it. And
Nice.
be a part of my email list, which I'll discuss other things that we have coming up, other
Sure.
classes. I do have one coming up here in the month of May, here
Oh,
locally
nice.
in Las Vegas. And I'm not going to live stream that one, but I probably would be live streaming some of the other ones.
Oh,
So yeah.
awesome. Okay.
So yeah, just go ahead and go there. You'll get the eight. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even tell you what it was. It's called
Oh,
the 8 steps to achieving any goal. It's the 8 steps that I do to achieving any goal in life. So yeah, it doesn't matter if
nice.
it's personal, business, education, whatever it is. If you
Okay.
follow these 8 steps and you're persistent, you will achieve your goals.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for the gift.
Of course.
And the viewers will actually be able to just, if they look below the video, can click the free gift URL and it'll bring them right to you.
Oh, okay.
Perfect. Well, I want to thank you, Kevin, for being on this summit and acknowledge you for the work that you do in the world, because it's making a difference and impacts people having more desirable lives that allow them to dream, and anything is possible. So thank you.
It's been my pleasure. It's been a great being on your show today.
Thank you.